Nexus open at Exposed, and Envy are going to take it down and take down Immortals.
I think a lot of people like disregard Envy a lot because of the record.
But look at how low his health bar is. He's dead. That's a kill for Seraph, an easy 1v1.
Obviously, TSM is like their number one, so they're obviously a good team.
And Dignitas has just jumped into the ring with TSM and does not look like they're going to make it out alive.
I don't think we're going to underestimate Envy at all.
Everyone of us is going to have a lot of respect for him, especially the young. That's pretty good.
Well, he's going to get snared up. There's the stun from Seraph as well. Absolutely massive play. Huge first blood for Lyra.
We just have to go in and play our best, I think. Just play what we know, not try and do their style.
Envy, who were in dead last, now in 9, and are literally a week away from reaching playoffs.
Welcome back to Week 7 of the North American League Championship Series. Saturday afternoon here live in Los Angeles, California. Beaming out to you from our studios. Plenty of fans packed the arena today. TSM making their way into the studio earlier, followed by Dignitas, of course, Stixay and Afro Moose setting up on stage, getting ready for battle. Big Smithy as well, Ninja and Seraph. They're going to be doing the same on the flip side of the arena. Hello, everyone. I am James Dash Patterson, joined as always by our Saturday special, Mark Zimmerman and William Scarley. How you guys doing today?
What are we, like a special at a diner?
Yes.
Saturday.
Just what I want to
special.
order for my Saturday brunch. A little Mark Z and Scar. How you guys doing? How you doing over there?
Feeling quite expensive. I hope you brought a lot of money.
I want
We're the expensive
I get
special.
bottomless
cheap
mimosas
pancakes,
and some
yeah.
French toast.
Yeah, we're the
please.
high class.
All right, let's begin with a look at our matches for the day. First on NALCS1, we have Darshan and Counterlogic Gaming versus Someday and Team Dignitas. After that, FlyQuest hope to break a 3-match losing streak against Immortals. If you tune in over on NALCS2, you'll catch Team Envy looking to upset TSM in the Battle Theater, and you can also catch Phoenix 1 squaring off against Echo Fox later in the day. Yesterday, we saw the debut of Doublelift on the Liquid roster. I want to get your thoughts on his first match back in the North American LCS.
I think, generally speaking, he looked fine. Obviously, there were some issues with that Draven pick, but he played a lot of team fights pretty well over the course of the game. He did get a nice snipe on the Sneaky, and then the big thing was, in the team fights, he actually played the Jhin extremely well. I think he had a couple fights where he was able to snipe out the Ahri, who was ulting around, stuff like that. But it wasn't enough because the big problems on TL are more their decision-making.
Yeah, like for me, it wasn't really a question of his mechanics. Like I think that translates pretty well from like solo queue play to competitive play. The question for me is how he works within the team, and that's something that's not really fixable within the 1, 2, or 3 days that he's been on Team Liquid so far.
Right, they haven't had much time to work to begin with. Along with that, they're going up against the #1 team in Cloud9 for their first match with him on the roster. Of course, they'll be playing tomorrow against Envy, a much more winnable match for them probably, and something that they'll be looking to pick up here.
Right, they still showed, especially in that first game when they made a ton of kills around the map early on, that they were still like mechanically fine players. It was just that like they didn't expand that lead at all, which is what we wanted to see. It was a little disheartening to see that, but against Envy, another early game team that tends to drop off later in the game with their shot calling, it's a much more even matchup.
Right, they'll have a few more allowances. Another player who moved around in the roster shuffle was Stun. He had a much better debut in getting the win here with Phoenix 1 last night.
Yeah, I don't think Stunts is an interesting player. He debuted on Dignitas. He's now here on P1. I think that he played relatively well throughout the week. The biggest thing is he didn't die much. He was able to impact the map. Honestly, if you kind of replace his portrait with Adrian, I think they kind of fulfilled similar duties, especially in team fights. And Laney, he did passable. I don't think he makes super big mistakes. I think he just does his job well.
And the big thing, though, was in that one first game that he played was against Mordekaiser Maokai, which probably is not a bot lane that many people are used to playing against, on top of the fact that it doesn't seem particularly strong. So obviously a little bit easier of a lane matchup in that first game. And then the second game did play pretty well.
Right, so we're still going to need some more evidence before we can really say, you know, what we're feeling about Stunt and his addition to the Phoenix 1 roster. Time now to pull up the standings, see how close the teams are in the playoff picture. Phoenix 1 took 3rd last night with their win over FlyQuest, but yesterday Cloud9 were the first team to secure a spot in the 2017 spring playoffs, and TSM could be the second today. But I want to take a look at the bottom half of the standings and that race for the final playoff spot. So gentlemen, here we go, 6th through 10th. Immortals currently holding 6th due to game record over Echo Fox, although tied in total match score. Looking at these, though, I want to know who exactly is your dark horse. Who's the team you're looking to make some moves here in the latter couple weeks of the split, making a run for that 6th place spot?
Right, and dark horse meaning unlikely to make it, but could, because obviously I think a lot of us would say Echo Fox. I still think Echo Fox is most likely to be the last team into the playoff picture, but if I have to pick one that won't likely do it, I think I take Dignitas. I think I've seen enough out of them in recent weeks that assuming a couple things break their way in the standings, they could sneak in. I think, Someday's still a beast. They have a very reactive play style. If teams play sloppy against them, I think they can punish it, and there's a chance that happens enough times in this last third of the season that they climb into 6th.
And I want to choose TL, but they're so far away from 6th place. They're 2.5 games away.
With 5 games to play.
Exactly. And so I feel like it's almost an impassable boundary, even if they were a top 3 team in the league. So I also kind of want to go with Echo Fox, but I can't pick them.
Too easy.
Oh, you already chose Dignitas, so I think maybe there's a chance for Envy to turn it up, but really that just depends on how they transition, because I think Lyra has really shown that he's super good, and being able to work around someone who is like really can set you up for a good early game, like teams like Echo Fox have been able to run with that to be able to create better leads. But they don't have kind of the cornerstone in Froggen that Ninja is.
And when it comes to Envy, we heard in the video there at the beginning of the day, a lot of teams do walk into the matchup against Envy, or have in the past, kind of underestimating them, and that can backfire. However, Bjergsen with the confidence moving into today's matchup by saying we are definitely not going to underestimate them today. It's going to be a tough first match on their way to qualifying for playoffs if they're going to do it here against TSM today.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about how the league has a lot stronger bottom teams. I mean, a player of Lyra's caliber is not something we're used to seeing on the kind of last place teams in the LCS. So I think in that sense, it is a little bit harder of a matchup than some of the top teams are used to facing against the bottom tier LCS team.
Right. Well, I'm going to extend the same question to you guys at home. Who do you think is the dark horse team that will secure a playoff spot? And tell us why. Send your answers to @LawLeSport, and Mark Scar and I will discuss them throughout the day, if they're good enough, that is. It's time now to send it to the casters to kick off the matches, though. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, welcome to the Battle Arena, everybody. My name is David Freak Turley.
What's my name?
Slim. No, wait, it's Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler.
True.
Yeah, I got it all right.
Say Riv.
I haven't cast with him in years, actually.
It's a tragedy.
It is. I miss that, man. It's okay. We're loading up for our first series of the day, and it's Counter Logic Gaming taking on Team Dignitas. And Team Dignitas, unfortunately, do come off a rough 0-2 week. They do need to start finding wins. They are outside the playoffs right now, but they are close. They are 1 match win behind 6th place.
Definitely true. We just saw that graphic and how close that race really is. Time to start is right now. And everybody does know whenever you're looking at Team Dignitas, Someday is the guy you're going to point all your fingers toward. This is the all-star import. And we decided to take a bit of a deeper look at the top lane here for Team Dignitas and kind of dive into, how much support they're actually giving him. Because a lot of people would think, oh yeah, they probably have super high jungle proximity, but actually it's average. And Chaser's not spending like a disproportional amount of his time towards the top side. However, going even deeper and looking at his individual kills pre-15 minutes, 90% of them were assisted by Chaser, which is actually number 2 in the league, very high percentage there. And looking again at where those kills occurred, top lane, he actually was 3 and 10, whereas bottom lane, where his pre-15 minutes were coming from, he was 6 and 2. So very effective TP usages to get down to the bottom side. However, in the top side, most of his kills are coming when Chaser's there and helping for the kills, and he actually died quite frequently to enemy jungle ganks. So the top lane jungle influence basically is very important for this guy.
Yeah, it's really worth pointing out. Again, he's 3 and 10 inside the confines of top lane the first
15 minutes.
Yeah, in the early game, he's actually dying more often than he's getting kills in lane, but as you mentioned, the TPs are good. Now, his lane opponent is Darshan, and Darshan had a very, I would say, bad summer and a bad start to this year, but we're seeing some improvements from him, and we're also seeing a lot of pressure from Xmithy.
Exactly. We're looking at the jungle, the exact same stats, basically, for Darshan that we looked at for Someday in the top lane. He has pretty comparable jungle proximity as well, a little bit more from Xmithy, but his pre-15-minute kills are 93% of them Xmithy has assisted in. So that's number 1. The average, by the way, for the league of, for top laners and their kills, 74% are assisted by junglers. So it's very common, since everyone's playing tanks and stuff now, for the top laners to have most of their kills being assisted by a jungler. But these are the number 1 and number 2 in the entire league for that stat. Now, all of this is, of course, going to draw the conclusion of junglers are going to be important in this top lane matchup,
Yes.
which is very crucial for both of these teams. And another thing to note in the top lane, Darshan has been playing a little bit more carries. They've been letting him go for, the Gangplank, the Jace, and the Fiora. They won all 3 of those games, and his kills actually ballooned from the first 3 weeks, 25, to 55 in the most recent 3 weeks.
So Darshan's playing carries. He's doubled his kills per week. Looks like it's going up for CLG. We'll see if that continues. They are right now ahead of the standings against Team Dignitas. But now let's check out these starting lineups for both these teams. On the blue side for game 1 is Counter Logic Gaming, wearing their home colors. Darshan up in the top lane, Xmithie in the jungle, maybe camp for him. We'll see. Huhi in the mid lane, Stixay in the bot lane. Aphromoo his support with Coach Six. As always, same lineup as last split.
And facing them on the red side, it will be Team Dignitas. Up top is Someday. In the jungle, maybe top lane as well, will be Chaser. Mid will be Keen. Bottom, Lod. Support Special, and Coach Cop on stage. Now, Coach Cop actually, recently joined in this squad after they released their Korean coaches that they had. And he's actually worked quite frequently with the team on their overall picture for how they want to address League of Legends. And he said, some of their views were a little bit skewed when he first got there, he thought, especially in pick bans, and on the current meta. But he feels like they've made some really good big strides recently. So I'm excited to see, how they fare against CLG, because this is actually, even though it is an 8th place team versus 5th place team, they're only like 2 games apart. And this is a very important one, as we said, in trying to get into that playoff spot.
We know it's possible to do so. We'll see if it can happen here. Only 6 matches to play in the split for both of these teams. At the end of this week, it will be down to 4. You can see the pretty standard top-tier bans going away. The Malzahar, the Varus, the Shen, Elise continue to rise in priority, and that's going to be away from Chaser.
Yeah, as far as super common, a lot of these names we've definitely seen before. A lot of mid lanes have actually gone through here. Ryze and Syndra should be pretty high priority. I wonder if mid lane actually gets picked up in the first round, and then second round of bans, if one of them doesn't answer, might be able to whittle that down further. But right off the bat, Graves prioritized over Rengar now. This is one of the things that I've been looking for from CLG for a few weeks now, to drop a little bit of the priority on Rengar and raise some on Graves, because I just feel like he's so strong right now, and especially in Smithy's hands, has had a lot better performances. So let's take a look, as Chaser is going to be the one answering that very quickly with the Rengar and trying to pilot that more aggressive early jungler.
And I think it's interesting because depending on who you talk to, some consider Rengar better, some consider Graves better. To some, they're equal. Depends on who you ask. But CLG, with both up, would so much rather ensure that they get the Graves and the giveaway priority and everything else over to Team Dignitas, because they really value that matchup even more.
Which is a divergence from what we've seen from them before. So I like the adjustment. Now, these shielding supports come in. As we've seen, Lulu, globally, priority on her has risen quite frequently in support of some sort of auto attack based AD carry. So even though we're still on 7.4 and not quite on the live patch, I do expect a little bit more, auto attack focus, although Lulu focus could easily be applied to Rengar as well. Works super well with that champion, and even if you're just looking at the first round picks there from Team Dignitas, nice synergy between those two. Able to Lulu to add some CC to the somewhat flimsy Rengar initiation if he has to go by himself.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So as we're going to round out the lineup in the bot lane here, and we are going to see a champ select without Jhin. That's somewhat rare for 7.4. He's like a 90% presence champion, but both these teams going to go for more damage-focused bot laners. Though Stixay, of course, has the Enchanter Crystal Arrow. Rumble banned away. Looks like Team Dignitas does not want to play around that champion.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that CLG went for the Ashe over the Ezreal. If you look at the isolated, players, and Stixay has had really good performance on Ezreal, and the champion's been extremely effective recently. However, if you look at their whole composition, bringing in the Ashe for that CC is definitely high priority, because 2 of the other roles that will generally bring that, the jungle and the support, both been locked in as, almost no CC for either of them, just the Karma Tether to rely on. So Counter Logic Gaming really keeping that entire composition in mind, and going with that Ashe will add an initiation tool for themselves. So both teams setting up here with some pretty good and pretty diverse opening round picks. As expected, like I was talking about, the second round of bans is more mid lane focused. The Syndra did pop up. Orianna has also popped up, but Ryze is actually still floating around. So that might be an area of focus here, as it would be available for Keen. Team Dignitas do get first round pick in the second half of the pick phase.
Yeah, there's an interesting sort of situation in the pick bans right here, because normally it's like Ryze is very good, Cassio is considered a counter to Ryze, Ori is considered a counter to Cassio, and then Syndra is considered a counter to Orianna. Like it bounces back and forth. And they kind of played like one step forward on both sides. Like, if we ban Syndra, then we can blind Orianna. Well, they banned Orianna, so can we blind Cassiopeia to block out the Ryze pick? And like it goes back and forth. Either way, Nautilus gets picked up after the final ban is the Renekton going away.
And Nautilus really rising priority after the Maokai nerfs. Nautilus, the new sort of king tank in the top side, and someday will be in control. As we mentioned, there has been so much jungle influence as far as how successful the top laners are and the kills that they've been able to earn early on in the game. Nautilus is very good at setting up ganks for Rengar. That's a pretty potent combo that they could try and employ with the damage that Rengar does bring.
Shout out to FlyQuest and the quick Shaco hover. Now they got to figure out what they want to play in the top lane to face off against Nautilus. Gangplank has often seemed to do very well against it. We saw specifically Zig play that yesterday to pretty good effect.
Yeah, I actually would like to see a split pusher from CLG in the top line. It looks like they're hovering a bunch of different tanks, but for me, the four-man squad that they had right there was pretty well set up to, complement a split pushing top laner, where they've got Karma for disengage. They're all ranged, so the four-man squad counter to the single-man split pushing could have a pretty effective bunch, but they decided to go with the more standard, set up that front line for themselves. Darshan on Poppy, he's no stranger. I mean, this guy's been playing Poppy ever since, MSI, and had big playmaking for the team, and been a big presence in the front line. We'll see how he does match up against someday, because it is going to be kind of mirrored up there. We'll have tanks from the top lane, and then DPS coming from the jungle.
Yeah.
See if they have any influence, but whenever it is the double tank, maybe we'll see Chaser and Smithy, as we said, only with average jungle proximity, looking to affect elsewhere. There's your Cassiopeia you're looking for, though, Greek.
Yeah, the last pick, Cassiopeia. I'm still a little bit surprised it wasn't Ryze, but Keen would rather play Cassio here in the matchup, and that's just fine here. I assume that's part of the reason Ahri was grabbed in the first place. CLG had to assume what kind of champ's going to be played and what was scary and what wasn't. So into the laning phases, we're going to go pretty soon. Somewhat standard team compositions, and I'm definitely curious to see how Xmithie versus Chaser goes. You're mentioning them earlier about maybe they won't camp top lane to the tank v tank, but Xmithie has been very inconsistent. And, some of that's just been he's had some bad Rengar games, but sometimes he's had some really pop-off Graves games. And I feel like this is a player that needs to step up for CLG to be a great team again. I feel like when they were in the summer split, Xmithie was the rock who was always playing at an 8 out of 10 or higher. And then if the rest of the team could step up, then CLG would do well. And hey, they went to Worlds off of some very good performances. They made MSI finals, and it was off of Xmithie finally showing up as a good jungler. 2017 has not been a good year for Xmithie, and for all the CLG fans, are hoping to see if he comes back to that 2016 form.
I do think, like you said, it's a little bit champion-based. And as far as rocks, Graves is such a good rock in the jungle right now. And this is the type of champion where Xmithie can grind out, jungle camp lead and farm it out early on. Plus, very good at counter ganking, especially against Rengar. So we shall see. Obviously, jungle is definitely team-oriented, especially early on. So let's see if we get any invades for deep wards here to see where the jungle paths actually start out. Raptor camps are super high priority right now. Rengar and Graves are two of the premier junglers for starting Raptor camps.
Yep.
So maybe we'll see some wards go down in those areas.
And here we are in game 1 of the series. Heard the crowd cheering a second ago. Counter Logic Gaming and Team Dignitas very close in the standings. CLG a favorite for making the playoffs, although there is still room to lose out. Team Dignitas are 1 match win behind 6th. And a team like CLG is one they need to beat to prove they deserve to be in the playoffs here. Let's see if that can happen right now. Darshan and Someday, 2 players we talked about a lot during the pregame. Tended to only get kills if their junglers were present, but this matchup may not be a jungle-influenced one.
Right now, the junglers are actually headed to opposite areas, both invading on the opposite quadrants, and this is actually fairly rare. Chaser still on the bottom side here as camps are about to spawn. Krugs are the later spawning jungle camp on that side too, so he's gonna have to wrap around and just get there a couple seconds after the red does spawn. So it'll be that extra experience from the Raptor camp that we're talking about for Smithy, whereas Chaser starting with the buff and getting a very significant lead from his bottom lane that almost steals away the red buff with the last auto there, but not quite.
Yeah, and it looks like Chaser did use his smite to last hit the camp, so he's not going to have it for any later fights. Darshan and Someday pitched in a battle to the death. Darshan's running out of health, though. His lollipop could break.
Okay, so this, while it looks, oh my god, so crazy, is so CLG advantage because Smithy's the one that started up on this side of the map. Darshan knowingly going for this super heavy trading early on, prime target now for jungler ganks, and Smithy's headed right over level 2.
Half HP onto Someday. He doesn't realize it's happening just yet. Suddenly, Smithy's behind him. There's the flash, gonna line the Q up against the wall. Easy first blood goes through to a Smithy. I feel like Someday maybe should have known better.
Well, we also talked about the other stat for Someday where he's actually only died solo death one time. All of his other deaths in the top lane, he was either ganked. Wow, Afro steals away the big wolf there. It's actually significant there with an RQ from Karma. But Someday, so many of his deaths has been when he's ganked either just by the jungler or by multiple members. And he hasn't had an above average enemy jungler proximity either. It's also fairly average as far as the time that enemies spend up there. It's just that the success rate for ganks on him has been very high this split.
Yeah, he's not getting camped, he's just out of position. And who he's gonna flash away, the chase for Keen! And a trade kill comes through. Team Dignitas answer back on the board. Well played to Keen. Last pick mid laner pays off.
Man, I just feel like so many of the solo deaths I've seen from Huhi have been at the hands of a Cassiopeia. Last year, most of them were when he was playing Vladimir and gets kind of counterpicked with the Cassiopeia. But once again, it happens here early on. The chase down from Cassiopeia. We'll see the beginning of it here. Even though she burns through a lot of mana if you go for these
That was so nice.
Jeez, that was... So the speed boost you get from your Q, obviously helping Keen there, but very nice footwork. And then the confidence to go for that finish.
And it's a huge misplay by Huhi. If you're willing to flash the skill shot. Don't give him the speed boost and the damage amp thinking, you know what, you're right. I might die to this. Like, if you're willing to burn the summoner, use it more advantageously.
Preventative healthcare better than reactive.
Yes.
All right, meanwhile, in the bottom lane, it is, the double ranged matchups for both sides, but Ashe, such good wave control early on. No surprise that CLG are getting that push in. That being said, it's not taking too heavy of a toll on the CS for the Dignitas bottom lane. Could be better, but not the worst of the world.
Yeah, they're going to stay afloat right here. Right now, this game is a 500 gold lead to counter Logic Gaming. Darshan, despite getting that gank to his favor, Someday's actually ahead of him in farm right now by more than the minion wave is large. He's going to stay on Darshan's side of that for a little while. Problem is, Chaser's around in case there was an Xmithie gank. Darshan holding flash but on half HP. I feel like he has enough flash card, but he's probably not a great gank target, to be honest. Someday's a bit low on mana.
Yeah, honestly, pretty good position here for Darshan. What you want to do is thin out the wave a little bit, so yeah, you're not under a huge amount of pressure to CS under your turret, and he's able to use the shield to soak up all the minion damage while he does hold it here for that little baby freeze. But Someday is actually recalling with no teleport. Since he was killed early, not only does it give that first blood go over to the graves, which really gets off to a very fast clearing jungler, but the early teleport had to be used to basically correct that first blood kill, and that's where that CS also came from. Now he's having to back and just return, so he's going to lose some of those minions and some of that lead. And Darshan, even though Someday should pick up maybe half this wave, Darshan feeling very good about his situation.
And that was really good. Someday misses 3 melee minions, which is really all he ends up completely losing out on after all the gameplay. So props by Someday to make a pretty elegant recovery.
Definitely props. But meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, flash in from Afro.
Inoki in his flash. Let's hopefully going to land the stun. Actually, Xmithie to join the fray as well. Going to get the damage across. Trying to kill him. Afro can't quite do it. And still Keen survives the 1v3. Well enough played by him on the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, and he soaks up 3 summoner spells in doing so. Both of the exhausts from CLG were used on him in addition to that flash to get things started, and he just had to burn his cleanse.
Yeah, stays alive in the laning phase, has enough potions to stay up for a bit as well, so props to Kian playing very well so far. 17 minions to his credit, ahead of Huhi. Definitely quite nice. And Chaser, after seeing that Graves gank and seeing him head topside, now knows he can live in the bottom jungle. Aggressive control ward, aggressive trinket ward, and he knows the red buff timer as well.
Yeah, the only thing with this invade is that CLG also had deep wards on Team Dignitas side, so they saw this in motion 6 or 7 seconds ago. Only problem for them, they can't do anything about it, even though they've seen it, and it's going to be a play on the opposite side of the map instead.
Oh, Darshan, he's a little too early. Is it going to be enough for Smithy? Yep. Gotta get the auto attack, gotta get the ulti across as well. Darshan almost outplayed it even better than he did.
Another visit from an enemy jungler, another kill onto Someday, and CLG keeping up with that focus on top side. This is going to be a very big reward. Someday, luckily for him, his teleport just came off cooldown.
Unfortunate.
In addition to his flash, which had just come off cooldown from the previous ganks. The flash didn't help him, but the teleport will at least allow him to not fall behind in CS. Anyways, here we go with another look. And this is a case of Someday even had a ward. And he started backing off as soon as he saw Smithy. It's just that still not able to cover enough distance. So the way that NALCS Q does work, if it's already been thrown out, and it's going to connect with that wall, then you're going to get pulled over there. You would have to wait until the pull actually starts and then start traveling there, to then charge to actually interrupt it. Ends up not even mattering as Smithy's able to find another kill for himself with his ultimate. And CLG with a, lead on the top side, but the gold on the entire game, if we take into account the mid lane where Keen is blasting Huhi, is actually very similar.
Yeah, Keen's at 700 gold individually. It's more than the lead that Smithy has himself. Forcing the flash away from X-Special. No flash to follow, no ult either. Out he goes.
And while I am a bit biased for junglers, I do like jungle leads more in some cases than a lane lead, because the jungler lead, Smithy can go take that extra gold lead and move it around the map, depending on where CLG want to make the call to go for an objective. Whereas the lead there for Team Dignitas is in the mid lane, and while Keen can move around, we actually have an invade right now.
Oh,
32 health left on it.
Unfortunate there. Smithy fighting it a little bit wrong, overjudged his damage, and Chaser autos it and takes it away. Nice move up to him. And Chaser had already stolen away the prior red. Smithy back in the fray. This is dangerous, though. Chaser and X-Special are here. Special level 5. A lot of damage onto Smithy. Can he win the fight? It's kind of close. Ult's get away. Not going to be enough. X-Special gets the kill, and then Smithy fights a 1v3 and loses, obviously.
Yeah, it looked like he was just frustrated that he lost the blue smite fight there and went for a very risky invade. As soon as he burns his dash there, Chaser's like, oh, this Graves no longer has any mobility. Plus, he's in my jungle. His lanes aren't even pushed in, so good collapse there from Team Dignitas, and they actually take down the gold leader from CLG and remove so much of the power. Yep. Now, full advantage over to Team Dignitas here with the gold lead for them is in mid lane. Easy for Keen to come down. Gets the Infernal Drake.
Yeah. And they've got plenty of damage killing champions as well. The Rengar's gonna love it. Cassia will nicely as well. And not too shabby on Ezreal. Gold lead now 704. Team Dignitas, no turrets have fallen, but you see the red team out farming in a game that had equal kills otherwise.
Definitely true. And so much of this power here. The mid lane for Team Dignitas and Keen on this Cassiopeia is definitely set up to be a monster.
What? Smithy, what are you doing?
You took too long, dude. Timer's up. I do that all the time on mid laners.
You just let him walk over. You're like, oh, you're in Q range? Haha, just kidding. Yeah. You should have flashed.
No, you should have started rotating earlier so I didn't have to wait around. Junglers have things to do, freak.
Yeah, like leash my blue buff. That's why I wish more people played hybrid. You just give me my buffs. Move on with my life.
Honestly, though, we are joking around, but honestly, sometimes, especially if your mid laner is super behind, you're worried about them taking this blue buff and not being able to do much with it. and actually being a target for the enemies, you know, to actually start fights around and take that away. So sometimes there's a little discussion in the moment as they're, you know, attempting a handoff or something, and they actually decide better of it. Maybe, maybe. We're just speculating. Can't say for sure what the communication was like there. Didn't look like it was an accident to turn around for that auto, though.
Not sure. Depending on your settings, your champion will automatically attack when you stop moving, and if Xmithie right-clicked very close to his body, walked 2 steps, and then he auto-acquired, sometimes you don't stop the attack animation in time. But either way, we have a gank going on into the mid lane. It's Darshan flanking around. I did get seen by the ward. You can see how far back Keen is playing. And they say, okay, never mind, abort mission.
And actually, there's a really interesting story being told by these pings that went on in that whole, you know, maneuver around mid lane with the blue question marks from CLG coming up around the spot where Chaser and Xpecial were sitting. They were aware that both of those members missing on the map could very well be setting up this counter gank. So they actually tell Darshan off, and rightfully so, because there definitely was danger there.
Bengal to Xpecial, killing a pink ward away. Now Darshan once again battling Someday with no gank pressure around, but feels better about the matchup here.
Yeah, and you can see, even with all the kills going over to Xmithie, you know, it's not like the ganks have been really getting Darshan super fed so he can just bully Someday. Yeah. But it definitely does make Someday play more cautiously. After you get, you know, ganked twice, killed twice, and Darshan continues to play aggressively like this, you always have to wonder, is he bluffing now? Like, you get extra power in that little poker mind game where you get to bluff more often, and sometimes that will result in the enemy just letting you have good trades because, well, you have to respect the jungler presence, even if it's not there now.
Especially because those 2 early ganks were good for Xmithie. Thankfully for Counterlogic Gaming, the early control ward has been swept away from that bottom jungle. Xmithie happened to walk by it after he took his red buff away, so that extra vision is gone. Xpecial still trying to put some wards down to trap rotations. Now Ari can't make the safe run down behind the Dragon Pit without being spotted. And we continue to wait through the mid game. 400 gold, plus an Infernal Drake. Team Dignitas are slightly winning. We'll see if Chaser can do anything else about this as he's clearing the top side of the map.
Yeah, definitely feeling good about their position at the moment because they can definitely stand toe-to-toe once you transition to teamfight phase, but I really think it's so interesting where so much of the gold is concentrated and where the lead is concentrated for Team Dignitas. Right now, Keen is going for his blue buff, whereas the 2v2 up top with the junglers and top lane tanks looks to be a stalemate. Xmithie decides that no more time is necessary. He was waiting around for a counter gank up there as Darshan was pushing in. Just wanted to be there in case the Rengar went for him.
Another battle down here. Darshan wants the fight to last long enough that he can use Grasp of the Undying. Unfortunately, could not do that just yet, so Someday gets the better of it with his shield duration. Darshan only has to last hit minions and run away. Someday starting to feel a bit better about this. Of course, they did give priority on picking Nautilus earlier in the draft, and seeing that paying off a little bit here, that Someday, despite the ganks, is, I feel like, generally having his way with Darshan to a small degree. Gold lead not exactly meaningful. 90 gold apart, despite being down 2 deaths. Feels good for Someday.
Yeah, I mean, Nautilus should push in this matchup. Ooh, down bottom, they're also going to push. So Team Dignitas actually prepping all waves for a play here. Mid, top, and bottom are all pushed in. Teleport is available for Someday. It's a level 11 Nautilus, so he has the you know, level 2 in the depth charge. Like, they are primed to make a move here. Yeah. But the vision does give up the game, and they've decided to call it off. Don't want to take any risks to throw away this lead, it seems.
Yeah, with Xmithie being there, they didn't seem like, I don't think they had the power to do so. 3 plus a turret seems to be able to defend 4 well enough.
Definitely true, especially with, you know, how well Graves can fire off a bunch of counter damage.
Oh yeah.
Jumping on in. Meanwhile, CLG are playing pretty defensively here and able to hold on even though they're getting pushed in, not giving up much. The dragon coming up soon though is Infernal, and that is a kicker because this is going to be Infernal number 2. Huge snowball potential here, and this just might spark that fight.
Well,
Xmithie on a ward.
If it sparks a fight, an Inferno might come afterwards. This time around, it's backwards, though. The Infernal sparks it. Uh-oh, now Xmithie running for dear life, trying to run away. It's not going to be enough. Snuffed out just like a cigar. And there we go. Keen's got to run away. Thunderlord's on. Ulti from Huhi. Uh-oh, Aftermoo walking right into Chaser's face. Shields in. They get a tackle in from Darshan. Flash over the wall. Chaser going to try to stay alive. Spites the Drake for help. Huhi on the chase. Looking for a bit more. They've already picked up Aftermoo. Lod's going to be next up. The volley. The shots are there, but Lod actually stays alive. It's already been 4 kills for 0. It's a complete slaughter. The ace for Team Dignitas.
Ooh, that spark turned into a wildfire, and Team Dignitas absolutely blow this game open. An ace and a second dragon. This is one of the biggest mid-game spikes. Like, if we're even in mid-game yet, this is still pretty early because this is complete rift control because it's an ace, so you can push in 2 turrets while taking an Infernal with your fed Cassiopeia from the mid lane with blue buff. Like, this is an absolutely insane amount of objectives won by Team Dignitas off of that team fight.
Yeah, suddenly a game that was 500 apart is 5,000 apart as we get to watch the start again.
And this vision control advantage for Team Dignitas came because of their control around mid lane. So much power there, and they're able to use it to first kill the jungle and then continue this fight. As we said, they're waiting for some fight to break out down here. Somedays just itching to use his teleport. He comes in, bottom lane rotates up. Watch this, actually. My favorite part is the Huhi chase on a Chaser here with the Drake. He's able to use his ultimate to then dodge to the side. It gives you that extra speed in addition to the Scuttle Crab. And Huhi then finds himself between Chaser and a Drake, killing him from the other side. And CLG just get absolutely demolished there.
And that's going to be a heartbreaker. It was a game where really not a lot happened, and then suddenly, okay, we're going to team fight with an equal game. Oh, we got slaughtered. CLG not going to feel good about what happened there. Team Dignitas, though, of course, going to feel awesome with this huge lead. They've got so many stats, and the Infernal Breaks really are amazing when you're already snowballing. You're going to see it's going to require a lot for CLG to dig themselves out of this hole. Dignitas have all the tools they need to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, you'll need a lot of advanced vision to, go for small picks. Take your small advantages and then run, because with that huge amount of gold and power with the Infernal Drakes that Team Dignitas just got, the even numbers aren't something that CLG want to mess with anymore. So they're going to look for some hit and run style, some fog of war play to try and get back in the game that way while playing defensively on their weak sides.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see if they can defend themselves. Chaser's already had a 4-stack Bone Tooth Necklace. He's killed Smithy twice, so you don't get double counts on that one, but his attack damage is real high. And it's going to be scary to deal with him as he's running around the map. Level 11, Cleaver, Warrior Enchant, oh baby.
Definitely lots of good things for Team Dignitas. Not the least of which is Laud on Ezreal. That juicy double item power spike that he's looking for while Ash is still trying to complete Infinity Edge. Like, this is the point where Ezreal can just kind of run wild as well. It's one of my favorite tricks there. You can cancel your...
I didn't know that.
The knockback. Yeah, I think... I forget where I first started. I think Dardoch was doing a whole bunch in the playtest tool, but here we go.
I think Dardoch has a whole bunch. Suddenly people are going to be dying under turret right now. Someday chasing around Xmith. Anchors him in. The red buff not going to win this fight. He's down 2 levels. Gonna get soloed out by the tank. After here to turn her back around. We know there's a Rengar coming. True Shot Barrage really takes him down as well, and it's gonna be that kill picked up as the Poppy falls. Top lane out are gonna go down as well. Quick trade for Stixay.
That slick little play by Flame in there. That was pretty smooth. Meanwhile, Team Dignitas gonna keep up their push as they should be able to out-push an Ashe here. There's a little bit of defense in CLG's favor with Huhi trying to threaten under the turret, and he actually catches Chaser with a charm, gonna dissuade any further aggression.
Yeah, but does it matter? It's Team Dignitas firing on pretty much all fronts right now. Smithy, too afraid to fight Keen, and who wouldn't be? He's blasting this game right now. Mid now the target of the siege, taking a bit of damage, and it looks like so far the process is working for Team Dignitas. They were 1-3 with Coach Kopp. I mean, the reference is that when Coach Kopp came in for Team Dignitas, they're like, look, trust the process. It's going to be better. We're going to improve. But they were 1-3 with Coach Kopp. Now, granted, he joined like 2 days before their first match. You get a bit of a pass. But here they are against a team above them in the standings, looking better in basically all respects. And if they win this match, they're pretty much in playoff spots.
Definitely, they have a healthy amount of respect for the opponent, though, and this is a best of 3. So Team Dignitas definitely can feel super good about the way this match is going. But know that this is a very important set, and they won't be able to let up after just a single win. Let's see here if they're able to actually convert this as well, because you remember that game where Keen was 9-0 on Azir.
Yeah.
And unable to finish it out. This one definitely looking better with the 2 Infernos and ginormous gold lead. We still have to keep check on that.
But you're right. I remember throughout most of this year, Team Dignitas have had very lackluster late games where it looked like they could only win if Someday was playing split push Fiora, because at least that would end the game eventually. We'll see if Team Dignitas can navigate around Baron or around pushes better enough this time around. We'll see if it can happen.
And this is one of the games that least revolves around Someday for Team Dignitas that we've really seen from them all split.
Yeah.
This game is all about Chaser, Keen, and Lod set up really well, all 3 of them, to carry this one through. They are doing a good job. First step is move up your ward lines, take control of the enemy jungle, cut off more options for CLG farming. You want to slow their gold income while retaining control of the neutral objectives like the Drake that will come up. Even though this one is a later game Ocean Drake, they'll still definitely want to nab that one up. Helps for all things Elder Dragon, just as well as always nice to have that extra buff.
Yeah, it'll actually be a DPS increase for Lod once he finishes the Muramana, because just regenning mana means more damage from the passive and actually becomes a combat stat for him. Sure. But you're right, triple Inferno would have been better, or a Mountain Drake or something would have been nicer. But again, take what you can get. Counterlogic Gaming fighting valiantly for ward control, but it doesn't really matter. Look at the wards they don't have. It's all around the Baron pit. 23 minutes in, Dignitas rushing this down.
Blue buff on a Cassiopeia can absolutely melt through this. They've got plenty of DPS, and that Baron is gone.
Not even a chance to stop it. Hawkshot sees, like, yeah, it's gone. They got Baron, they got farther ahead. Team Dignitas absolutely in control of this game ever since that 18-minute team fight.
I like that, with especially on Lulu as well, you can really enable any one of those 3 carries that we mentioned. Oh, here we go, actually. Going to be Chaser this time around.
In the bot side of the map, they've found Darshan, and he is sadly alone. Goodbye, down he goes. Chaser on a killing spree. Gets the kill credit. Stole it from his teammates.
I mean, they gave him Essence Flux attack speed plus half of the Lulu speed. Like, he was very nicely set up there. Someday holding Darshan in place long enough, and it looks like Team Dignitas should be able to kind of walk this one into the CLG base. Numbers advantage plus the Baron buff plus huge amounts of extra firepower. We'll have to wait on one more minion wave to do so, though.
Well, at least it's right there. The reinforcements have arrived, and Team Dignitas looking to break down into the base. Shield blocks into the Mantra poke, and they go to the turret, nearly gone. That's going to be popped 24 minutes, 20 seconds into the game. Into the base, Team Dignitas looking for a little bit more on this one, and if CLG won't fight for a turret, they won't fight for an inhibitor. This should be going over pretty safely to Lod, and Team Dignitas make that push count.
All right, let's see where the next call is. Are they actually going to purchase? The pings are coming down on mid lane, but they have a decent amount of gold in inventory at the moment. And looks like the call will be to go purchase with that first. Keen completing. Seraph, so he has an extra shield now. Really becomes so difficult to deal with this Cassiopeia. Extremely fed, plus the support of a Lulu and a Nala's front line. CLG really hoping for some mistakes from Team Dignitas to give them an opening to get back in.
Seems pretty likely that that opening won't exist, though. Team Dignitas looking better over time, and really haven't seen any obvious hiccups. I'm sure there's things that could have been cleaner overall, but Team Dignitas not really giving openings. Their ward control's been pretty solid. That Baron was completely safe, and one of the best Baron calls I've seen Dignitas make all year.
Yeah, the thing about that one is they prepped it well. Yeah, it's super easy for them to prep it well because
you're up
so
8K,
far ahead.
like whatever.
But the important part is that they did the preemptive steps, clearing out the vision, placing down wards in that blue quadrant, and now they're continuing with their siege with said Baron buff, and might actually be able to get the double inhibitor turret right off of it.
For the inhib turret right now, knockback goes onto the tank. Does CLG engage the 5v4? They cannot. All they get is some wave clear, and Someday's back on the map. The cannon turret continues to plug away, but will finally drop out.
Chaser's actually going to use his Baron buff right now to speed up the minions. It
Very
gives
smart.
it move speed as well. Is going to usher them
And
along.
Whimsies himself
the
to
mid
make it
lane.
even faster.
Nice minion escort line here.
So many pros don't do that. I'm glad we see this here from Team Dignitas. Whoever told them to do that, smart player. Turret's going down. Now the inhibitor once again. CLG gonna back off and give it away. They'll look for poke, but you've got to respect the anchor. Does not land onto Xmithy, and Team Dignitas looking so good right now. 11,000 up. Looking to take down Counterlogic Gaming in game 1. CLG have not shown signs of life turning it around.
Yeah, I mean, for people just joining, tuning in now, the big story of this game was a huge mid-game win for Team Dignitas. They got an ace, an Infernal Drake, and 2 dragons off of a bottom lane play where they had vision advantage. And before that, there was, you know, CLG were winning top side with a bunch of ganks, and mid lane was going to Team Dignitas, but that's what really broke this game open. Ever since then, full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. The tank in the front line is going to be a quick disengage for CLG. Turret's going to go down. Darshan taking a bit of poke. Jump in for Lot. Anchor's going to be there, and Darshan ready to be a great stun. Hits 2 or 3. That's one popped away. Xmithy is gone, and it's a 5v4 now. Team Dignitas just need to walk into the base, and this game is over. Not even 30 minutes into the game right now. A single 5 for 0, as you mentioned, Kobe. It was 2 turrets, the second Drake, and just complete control that never went away. The TP flanking for some just to make sure that the ward's going to die.
Oh, that ward's dead!
That ward is so gone. Woo! The mechanics from Someday right there. Now this turret's going to fall right afterwards. The flash charm, looking for it. Not going to get Lot, though. Not going to happen at all. And now Huhi is rooted up in place. The damage output's there. Chaser is unstoppable. 5-0-4. And nothing is going to stop Team Dignitas from taking this game home at this point. Darshan plinked down the Twin Fang, the poison, the flash means nothing. Still 3 dead, and now the casual walk into the Nexus. 12-2, Team Dignitas in control from minute 10 onwards. GG, 1-0 Team Dignitas. We'll see if they can do it again.
Definitely a good spot here for Team Dignitas to be in. They're looking to make their push up into a playoff spot. And if they're able to take a series off of CLG, not only will that boost them up the standings, but bring down one of the possible teams that is in range of falling out if they continue to drop series.
Absolutely. 6 matches to play. CLG up 2 matches. Echo Fox and Immortals only up 1 over Team Dignitas. And if Team Dignitas close out game 2 or 3, they are tied at win with Echo Fox. Tied of win with Immortals, 1 win behind CLG with 5 to play. Absolutely, this team becomes a playoff contender. I mean, we know they already are, but I mean, that spot, it gets more and more secured. If you can crush CLG like you did in this game, what's going to stop you from taking Immortals? What's going to stop you from taking Echo Fox? What's going to stop you from getting into that top 5 or top 6 and making that run through the quarterfinals onwards?
Yeah, I mean, the best things this time around from Team Dignitas, I like them playing around where they had the power.
Yep.
And that's what really broke the game open for them.
All right, we'll see if they can do it again or if CLG can make the comeback. But now, for more on that Dignitas victory, let's send it down to our analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Dignitas coming away with the victory here in Game 1 against CLG. And in relatively dominant fashion once we get through the first, 5 to 10 minutes of the game, where CLG was able to craft a nice level 1 gank path to the top lane. Xmithy and Darshan working together here in that tank matchup top lane.
Right, and this is good to see out of CLG, given the fact that they had been struggling a little bit to get Xmithy going. He has not been having the best season overall. A nice little level 1 to get him started on the enemy side of the jungle. It sets up this really cheesy kind of gank that they're going to be able to do because Darshan trades so heavily on the top side early on.
Yeah, I think this is just really smart. I think some days, like, okay, I win this trade and I push Darshan away from the creep wave, like, I want it, it's mine. And it just so happened that he didn't think about where the jungler was at the time.
Yeah, and so we're going to see Smithy steal away the red buff. And, I mean, they should be a little bit aware of it because we know that Chaser was on the flip side in the bot lane doing the same thing. So this is a little...
Right, and you just watched Darshan walk through your own jungle and Tribrush to get back to lane. But rightly so, going top lane, securing that early kill for CLG, gives us the impression that, okay, here we go. Maybe they're going to steamroll the game and become super dominant. That's actually not the case at all. Dignitas responding kind of across all the lanes. Strong play in mid lane from Keen, as well as some skirmishes and team fights that'll come later down the line.
Right, I think the big thing was Keen getting that solo kill and then the amount of pressure that he's able to draw to him, because after he got that kill on the Huhi, that's great. And then we saw a 3-man play by CLG trying to punish Keen, and Keen just absorbs it, almost kills Afromu there. So a really good game overall out of Keen.
Yeah, I honestly just don't really know what happened mid lane. I think Exhaust Ari should never get solo killed, especially in that position. And Hui just ended up misplaying a little bit, and Keen took advantage of him.
And to Freak's point there, Ari blowing the flash after the Q from the Cassia lands as opposed to preemptively. It's one of those situations where, look, if you've already made the decision in your brain that you're going to be willing to flash in this engagement, then flash sooner rather than later. Don't give them the opportunity to get that speed boost and catch up to you. Let's fast forward, though, to the 16-minute mark. This is where Dig gets total control of the game and the dominance that I'm talking about. An ace plus Infernal Dragon and 2 towers coming off of this fight.
Obviously, a good setup here by Dignitas using that kind of pressure that they have around mid lane. They get a pick off onto Smithy. And then the big thing is how it plays out afterwards. CLG is probably one of the worst early skirmishing fights teams in the league. It feels like all their losses come from a situation like this where it's not a set team fight. Their team fighting's fine, but here you have Ari up on the top side, you have the bot lane collapsing from down there, and Darshan is TP'd in from behind. So they're going to try and get this big collapse, and it's just going to go horribly wrong. So if you start rolling this out, you see, okay, we're going to start focusing down, trying to get escaped here by Dignitas. Chaser turns it back onto Afromu, and he's caught out in the middle of the team, but Stixay can't get involved. He's down dealing with Laud. This gives time for Chaser to get away. Now Laud is the focus. He's going to be able to kite this one out with the help of Dignitas collapsing, and then Keen is able to turn a lot of his focus.
Yeah, right. Charm and the damage from the Infernal Drake finishing off Huhi there as he chases into the Dragon Pit.
And this is just the most drastic thing that could happen to any team. They get aced at 16 minutes. Not only that, they lose Infernal and 2 towers. It's like, oh, no, you won't come back from that against a good team.
And it feels like every time CLG loses, it's from something like this. Like their series last week versus TSM, they had early game leads both games, and then they get this like 4-for-1 or 1-for-3 trade around like a random fight that their play gets jumped on, and then they don't do anything. And here it's the same thing.
Right. I mean, the 2 clips that we showed, right, is kind of a nice contrast of exactly your point, which is that in pre-planned, well thought out situations such as the level 1 pathing from McSmithy, CLG has shown that they can still operate at a fairly high level with enough preparation and forethought. But in those situations where they have to make split-second decisions or reactions, such as skirmishes that break out in the jungle or when a certain member gets picked, that's when they look lost. And as you mentioned, Skara, an advantage like that going over to any team in the North American LCS, Dragon plus 2 turrets as well as an ace, it's hard to come back from that.
And I'm just relatively happy that Dig was able to close it out in like a timely fashion. Like I was maybe a little bit worried that like the closing out would be a little bit slow. Because I'm not used to them having like such a big lead early, and then them being able to secure Baron and then just go down one lane to be able to secure the win just was really good for Dig.
Yeah, Keen picking up player of the game this time around. That Cassio in the mid lane, getting that solo kill, kind of opening up the map and allowing for the pressure, ultimately ending up resulting in that pick.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice that he was able to do that because CLG did have that early game start. You're a little concerned if you don't get something going in your favor. Maybe Smithy starts becoming a big threat on the Graves. Instead, Keen starts controlling around the mid lane, basically creates all the space for Dignitas to start coming back in the game. And then that pick off, it was a Dig Keen kind of Chaser Keen combo, but it's hard to do that if your Cassiopeia is down.
Right. And now, so this is one of the teams, Dignitas, that we were looking at as a dark horse headed towards playoffs. Well, this is, I mean, as you mentioned, it's nice to see them close it out in kind of consistent or, dominant fashion with a lead such as that. But against CLG, a team that's sitting in 5th place right now, they're also in danger of dropping out. We kind of focused in on that 6th place slot, but we can't forget that 4th, 5th are also only maybe 1 game up there. And so that this matchup just as important for CLG to come away with victories as it is for Dignitas making their playoff run.
Right. You're looking at some of these like lower place teams in the top 6, teams that are looking to or playing a lot worse recently, like FlyQuest, CLG. These are the teams that got to be scared of the people coming up. And Dignitas, Immortals, Fox, if they ever take wins here and there, they could become serious threats into the playoffs spot.
All right, Dignitas picking up game 1. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, it's game 2 between Team Dignitas and CounterLogic Gaming. Don't touch that browser. You're watching the North American LCS.
Wait, daylight savings, are we losing or gaining an hour?
We're losing.
Losing. Oh, all right, we're going to sleep at 10, guys.
I might have a date tonight, Tony.
Oh,
let's go, Jake.
Be back by 10.
I'm in for my dog. Oh.
Wait, what?
What?
Hey, he doesn't realize it's happening just yet. Suddenly, Xfinity is behind him. There's the flash, going to line the Q up against the wall. Easy first blood goes through to Xfinity.
Okay. Okay,
Mid tower. Nice. Will walk into the Nexus 12-2. Team Dignitas in control from minute 10 onwards. GG 1-0 Team Dignitas.